There is a fortress that many of us build, not with stone and mortar, but with silence and distance. It begins as a necessary shelter, constructed almost unconsciously, brick by painful brick, from past disappointments and misunderstood moments. You might not even realize you're building it at first. A single brick is laid when you pour your heart out about a passion, only to be met with a polite, vacant smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Another is cemented into place when a moment of deep vulnerability, offered in absolute trust, is later wielded as a weapon in a casual argument. The mortar is the quiet, internal vow you make after each sting: never again. I will not grant someone that power over me again. This fortress isn't cold or menacing. From the inside, it can feel like the safest, most logical place in the world. It's a space where you are the sole architect of your own peace, a controlled environment where there are no unpredictable emotional currents to navigate, no hidden expectations to decipher, and no possibility of ambush. Within these walls, you cultivate a quiet, resilient self-sufficiency. You learn to be your own source of comfort, your own confidant, your own entertainer. You tell yourself this self-reliance is a formidable strength, a form of emotional independence that others, with their messy entanglements, sorely lack. And in many ways, it is a testament to your ability to endure. But the human psyche is built on a fundamental, unyielding paradox. The very walls erected to shield the heart from pain also starve it of the warmth necessary for it to thrive. Safety, when experienced in absolute isolation for too long, begins to feel indistinguishable from absence. The silence that was once a peaceful refuge starts to echo with the sound of your own unmet needs, a low hum of longing that grows louder in the dead of night. You eventually realize, with a slow dawning horror, that the fortress has not only kept others out, but it has also locked you in. The deep moat you dug to keep away potential harm now feels like an impassable chasm, reflecting a face that has mastered survival but is forgetting how to truly live. It's a profound loneliness born not of a lack of people, but a terrifying lack of access, the realization that you have become so adept at protecting yourself that you've forgotten how to let anyone, or anything, in. Inside this fortress, the world gradually shrinks to the size of your own mind, creating what psychologists refer to as an emotional echo chamber. When the only voice you consistently hear is your own, your thoughts, especially the negative ones, begin to take on the weight of undeniable truth. There is no dissenting opinion, no gentle counter-argument to your harshest self-criticisms. A fleeting thought of, "I was so awkward in that conversation," isn't just a momentary flicker of self-doubt, it reverberates in the silence, amplified with each repetition until it solidifies into a core belief: I am an inherently awkward person who is incapable of normal interaction. Without the grounding presence of another person's reality to offer a different perspective, your own perception becomes dangerously distorted. Your anxieties, left to marinate in this sealed environment, can spiral into catastrophic certainties. A minor social misstep, something most people would forget in minutes, replays in your mind not for hours, but for weeks, morphing from a simple mistake into a permanent stain on your character. From a neurological standpoint, your brain is simply doing what it's designed to do. It is a pattern-seeking machine trying to make sense of your situation. It creates a narrative to explain the profound absence of connection, and the simplest, most readily available explanation is that the fault must lie within you. People don't stay because I am not interesting enough. I am alone because I am fundamentally unlovable. This isn't a sign of weakness, it's a cognitive survival mechanism, an attempt to find a reason in a situation that feels senseless. But this story comes at a tremendous cost. Your very identity begins to feel thin and transparent, because a significant part of who we are is forged in the mirror of our relationships. We see our kindness reflected in the gratitude of a friend, we discover our humor through their shared laughter, we confirm our wisdom in their trust. Without that vital social mirror, you can start to feel like a ghost in your own life, moving through the world without leaving a trace or making an impact. The loneliness becomes less about missing other people and more about missing yourself, the version of you that existed in the shared space between two minds, the you who was seen, heard, and validated into existence. You begin to question if the person you are when you're alone is even real, since no one is there to witness it. Prolonged solitude has a subtle, almost insidious effect on the very tools we need to dismantle the fortress and reconnect with the world. Think of social skills not as fixed personality traits you either have or don't, but as a form of emotional muscle. When left entirely unused, these muscles begin to atrophy. The art of casual conversation, once perhaps a simple exercise, now feels like attempting to lift an impossibly heavy weight. The ability to be vulnerable, to share a fragile piece of your inner world without any guarantee of how it will be received, feels less like a risk and more like a certain emotional death sentence. Your capacity for trust, already weakened by past betrayals and now brittle from long disuse, becomes rigid and defensive. You may deeply want to reach out, but the neural pathways in your brain that facilitate that action have grown faint and overgrown from neglect. It is precisely like trying to speak a language you haven't practiced in 2 decades. You might recognize the words in your head, but your tongue feels thick and clumsy, unable to form the sentences correctly. This isn't because you've become inherently antisocial or cold. It's a physiological response to a chronic lack of practice. Your nervous system, having adapted beautifully to a low-stimulus, low-risk environment, now misinterprets potential social interaction as a genuine threat. A simple invitation for coffee can trigger a full-blown fight-or-flight response. Your heart rate quickens, your mind races with 1,000 potential ways it could go wrong, and your body floods with cortisol. In that moment, retreating back into the familiar silence of the fortress feels less like a choice and more like a biological imperative for survival. People on the outside, unaware of this internal storm, may misinterpret your hesitation as aloofness or disinterest, creating a deeply painful feedback loop. Your visible caution makes them pull away, which your brain logs as further evidence that connection is unsafe and rejection is inevitable, causing you to retreat even further the next time. It is the tragic irony of this state that the longer you go without connection, the more alien and terrifying the prospect of it becomes, not because your desire for it has faded, but because the very machinery of connection has been powered down to conserve emotional energy and protect you from what your brain now perceives as certain harm. There is a unique and particularly haunting experience known to those who live within the fortress of loneliness, the feeling of being a ghost at the feast. You might find yourself in a crowd at a work event, a family gathering, or a bustling city square, physically present in every way, yet entirely invisible. You are surrounded by the intricate architecture of human connection, inside jokes you don't understand, intimate conversations you can't penetrate, and waves of easy laughter that feel like they are coming from a million miles away. You watch it all from behind an invisible pane of glass, observing the rituals of belonging with the detached, analytical curiosity of an anthropologist studying a foreign tribe. You learn to perform a perfect imitation of participation. You smile at the right moments, you nod when expected, you angle your body towards the group to signal engagement. But inside, you feel a profound and dizzying disconnect, a sense of unreality as if you are watching a film of your own life rather than living it. The sounds of joy and camaraderie don't reach you, they seem to bounce off the invisible barrier you carry with you, becoming muffled, distorted echoes. This experience is uniquely agonizing because it shatters the simplistic, well-meaning advice that loneliness is cured by mere proximity to others. It proves, with brutal clarity, that you can be surrounded by a dense sea of humanity and still feel more devastatingly alone than ever before. This isn't the quiet, contemplative solitude of being by yourself, it is a loud, chaotic loneliness that screams your otherness back at you. In these moments, you become hyper-aware of your own silence, your own stillness in a world of vibrant motion and sound. You notice the empty space around you as if it were a physical object, a bubble of nothingness in a full room. This is the acute loneliness of non-belonging, the deep ache of being an outsider looking in, close enough to see exactly what you are missing but too far away to ever feel its warmth. Every shared glance you witness and every whispered secret you overhear reinforces the fortress walls from the inside out, whispering the familiar, painful lie that has become your truth. You see? Even when you are here, you are not really here. You do not belong. The journey out of the fortress is not a dramatic, single-act escape but a slow, tentative process of learning a forgotten language, the language of connection. It doesn't begin with grand gestures or a sudden, forced sociability, but with tiny, almost imperceptible acts of courage that challenge the fortress's very foundations. It is the conscious decision to hold eye contact with the barista for a second longer than is comfortable, a small rebellion against the ingrained instinct to look away and remain invisible. It is choosing to reply to a text message with a genuine, open-ended question instead of a conversation-ending statement, pushing back against the fear of being a bother. It is the quiet, mindful act of sitting in a public park and simply observing the world without the protective shield of a phone, allowing yourself to be passively present and seen. Each of these small steps is like sounding out a new word in this rusty, unfamiliar tongue. At first, it feels clumsy, foreign, and profoundly unnatural. You will almost certainly make mistakes. You might misinterpret a tone, say something you perceive as awkward, or feel a conversation fall flat, and your first, overwhelming instinct will be to retreat back to the safety of your walls, convinced you've failed spectacularly. But this is the most critical phase of the entire process. Healing requires that you fundamentally redefine what success means. Success is not a perfect, seamless conversation that ends in a new friendship. Success is the fact that you tried at all. It is about gently overriding the brain's well-worn panic signals and teaching it, through new and repeated experiences, that connection does not always have to end in pain. It is a slow process of recalibration, of patiently accumulating new evidence to counter a lifetime of old programming. You are not trying to become an extrovert overnight. You are simply reacclimating your nervous system to the warmth of human presence, one gentle, low-stakes interaction at a time. This is how the formidable fortress walls begin to come down, not with a wrecking ball and a cloud of dust, but by patiently planting a single seed of trust in a small crack and giving it the quiet permission it needs to grow.